What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the RBI podcast. My name is Richie. I am your host. Happy Monday to all that celebrate. And we have a big week of baseball coming up. We got the World Baseball Classic final. Spring training is coming to an end. We got some big roster cuts coming. We'll get more to that on Thursday. But for now, we're going to recap the USA's big win over Cuba. We're going to talk about the Jose Altuve injury, and we're going to do our X Factors for the AL East. USA is back in the finals, and I don't know what you guys are rooting for, but comment below how you feel about the World Baseball Classic. The injuries are starting to pile up a little bit. It's kind of getting a little nervous, but you know, follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter at RBI Pod. YouTube Shorts are coming out every day. Follow me, subscribe to me. You know what the deal is, and just I appreciate you guys listening. This is gonna be a little bit of a not a brief podcast, but because we just did one on Saturday, this will be a shorter one than usual, but regardless, I appreciate you guys listening. Share with your friends, share with your family. Share with your friends, share with your family. And, let's get right into the episode. We're going to start off, unfortunately, with the Jose Altuve injury. This kind of thing happens. I didn't really see the outrage on Twitter over this injury as much as the Edwin Diaz one, but it's just a shame, just for the Astros' sake, for baseball's sake. And just in general, because things like that happen all the time, especially like something you can't control. It's not like a soft tissue injury or it's a pitch up and in, and it broke his thumb, and it's just a shame it happened on that stage too. Like such a big spot in the game, you can't really always control that. Daniel Bard had a rough outing, and he throws hard, so you get something up and in like that. A lot of small bones in his hands. I mean, I'm not a doctor, but I know that they say on the broadcast all the time. And it's a shame that a player the caliber of Altuve, or just anyone in general, that's painful. I've never done it. Knock on wood, I never do that, ever. And now the Astros kind of have to pivot. I don't think this affects them in the long run as much, because a broken thumb will heal. It's not a ligament issue. It's not like anything that can chronically injure him for the rest of the season. Once he comes back, once he gets his legs under him, he'll be back to his normal self. But 8 to 10 weeks is a long time, and they're going to have to slot that somehow. And I think it's Mauricio Dubon. He's going to play second base now for them. David Hensley played second today for spring training, but I don't know how much they want to use him there. He's more of a DH, it seems like. Yordan Alvarez is kind of a little shaky, meaning health-wise. I think he just started swinging last week. I don't know if he's back yet, but things are. McCullers isn't making opening day, so the Astros aren't healthy, really to start the year. But they have the bigger goal in mind. They're trying to win the World Series again. They'll get that World Series hangover anyway, but you don't want to fall that far behind. Even though I don't think they will. The Mariners are good, but they're still not on the Astros level. Angels, who knows? Rangers, who knows? And the Athletics, they're not going to compete this year. For Altuve's sake, He's one of the best hitters in baseball. He's the best second baseman in baseball. He's just been, scandal or not, he's been one of the most consistent hitters, just pure hitters in the game since he's gotten mainly since he's gotten to the American League when the Astros went there. But for his career, he's just been a really good player. I remember watching him. I went to a Met game, and he was in the maroon uniform. Lucas Duda hit a walk-off home run that game. That was funny, but it's just amazing how good of a player he's become. In my opinion, he's a Hall of Famer. I know the cheating scandal might stop that, but it's just those types of injuries. It almost happened tonight as well with Nolan Arenado. Arenado took a pitch up and in, hit his knuckle. X-rays were negative, thank God, but it's just a freak thing, and I hope the conversation doesn't come up again with the World Baseball Classic, because things like a pitch like that can happen in a regular season game. It can happen in a preseason game. It's not like it takes exerting yourself more than usual to get hit in the hand, because a pitcher's not going to throw it half as hard because it's a spring training game. One, most of those guys are trying to make the team. Two, you'd hurt yourself if you try to pull back a little bit. And for Daniel Bard's case, even though the World Baseball Classic is a high-intensity moment, but even if it was a spring training game, he would still be throwing 98 miles an hour. And you feel bad for the pitcher and the hitter, obviously. I've seen Kevin Pillar get drilled in the face. That was not fun to watch. And it's just, you hope he can make a speedy recovery. Obviously, a break is a lot more concrete, like when it comes to a diagnosis and the healing process, because you just have to wait till the bone heals. When it comes to like tearing ligaments and rupturing Achilles and like oblique and like strains and high ankle sprains like Brandon Nimmo, it gets a little tricky because it's all based on how your body heals, and there's no concrete evidence to say that you are fully healthy. It's all about how you feel, how your body reacts compared to a break, which is just put a cast on it, let it heal, do like some PT with it, and then you're good to go. Like for example, Brandon Nimmo, he got hurt, but thankfully it's just a knee and ankle sprain. A lot of that is going to be pain tolerance, but it's also like inflammation and things like that. There's no really concrete way or distinct way to figure out when you are fully healthy besides how you feel. And obviously Altuve is going to be sore. He's going to be rusty when he gets back. But once the bone is healed, you can't. If you re-break it, it won't be because you like came back too fast, unless you came back while the bone was still broken. I'm not a doctor, but when you get a sprain or a strain or anything of that nature, it's more likely you can re-injure it by like coming back too quick or not rehabbing the correct way, because like I said, there's no concrete way to say you are fully back until you really go out there and test it and make sure the inflammation's all out and all that type of thing. And I guess that'll be the silver lining here, is that it is a break and not like a torn UCL in his thumb. I've seen that happen too. That happens a lot actually with like slides and all that. Those get tricky because it's a tear. Like I said, the soreness, some damage, like nerve damage in your hand, all those types of things. Again, I'm not a doctor. If you're looking for some concrete like baseline of like how they're going to rehab him, I have no idea. I just know it probably hurts to break your thumb. And for the Astros' sake, like they're going to start the year with, they'll have Bregman, they'll have Pena, they'll have probably Framber starting game one. But like they lost Verlander, and like I said, they lost McCullers, so they're a little thin to start. Luckily, it's a long season, so I think Altuve, what is it? It's March 19th, so he'll be back, I would say June earliest, because 8 to 10 weeks, so 8 weeks would be May 19th, and then the 2 more weeks. So yeah, like probably mid-June, maybe right before the All-Star break to maybe get the rust out. He can play a couple games, and then they'll hit the stretch run, and they'll be the Astros that they usually are. And to get more into Brandon Nimmo now, while we're on the topic of injuries, Cleat got caught, but he got an MRI. They said he was week to week, but he spoke to the media today, and he said that it's a knee and ankle sprain. He feels a lot better today than he did yesterday, which, like I said, a lot of it is how you feel with these type of things. And he said, heart to heart, he believes he'll be ready for opening day. If I'm the Mets, do not push him. Do not make things worse. One thing I say is, like, Mark Hanna is a fine option to play center field for a short period of time. If you lose Brandon Nimmo for the season, or like a lengthy, like 2 to 3 month span, the Mets are kind of thin in center field. Like, they have Nimmo. After that, it's Tim LeCastro, who's a backup at best. Mark Hanna is not a center fielder by trade. Tommy Pham looks slow in center. So those are your options. Unless you want to bring up like the kid Alex Ramirez. He's 19 years old, I believe. Or if he's not 19, he's 20 or 21. So he's super young, super raw, and still has to grow into his body, let alone play a Major League Baseball game. So Brandon Nimmo's health is ridiculously important for the Mets. And I just think play the long game here. If you have to sit him for the first week of the season, even if he feels ready, do it. Do not how do I put this? Do not risk him being out for longer than he needs to be, regardless of how he feels. Like, I feel like if he tells you he's 100%, okay, 3 more days off, then you'll play, because we're not in the postseason mode yet. We're not in the stretch run in the dog days of August and September. We are in March. So a knee sprain is going to be taken a little bit more cautiously than you would do come October. And besides that, I'm just knocking on wood that all these guys get healthy for the start of the season, because it's the reason why in football they kind of stopped playing players because of this. But baseball's a little different of a game. You have to get into a rhythm. Football, you could do that with joint practices and things of that nature. you can't really replicate game-like scenarios in like a live BP, or like, because if you're scrimmaging, it's the same thing. It's the same idea. And also the NFL, obviously, there's a lot more contact and a lot more risk of injury because of the contact. But you can get hurt in any sport at any time, and that's what makes sports freaky sometimes, and high pressured, high risk, but also high reward when it comes to financial, fame, winning, and that's why we love sports, because you can be at the really top, you can be at the really bottom, but those highs feel high as much as those lows feel low. And for Altuve and Nimmo, those are the two guys that had injuries, like the main guys. Hopefully Altuve makes a speedy recovery. Hopefully Nimmo gets back to 100% sooner than later. And besides that, we are now going to recap the Team USA versus Cuba. So about 20 minutes ago, USA versus Cuba ended, and it was a blowout. I predicted they would win comfortably. I didn't know it was going to be that comfortably, especially with the start. Adam Wainwright loaded the bases with no outs, and he allowed one run to score. So I think he walked in the run as well. They got a pop-up, a strikeout, I believe, or a ground ball, a pop-up, and then I think a strikeout, but regardless, he got out of the inning. And then USA answered right back, and it was a bludgeoning from there. Trey Turner with 2 more home runs, by the way. We haven't had a podcast since the USA-Venezuela game. What a great game. That I was out to eat, and that home run, I was like, not jumping up and down, but I raised my arms like that, and we wanted to yell because it was a sick home run, but I was in a public place. That was a big win. Yeah, jeez, it's late, sorry. That was a big win for the United States, and I think early on they kind of had to knock off that like emotional like victory from last night, or 2 nights ago now, and really like lock back in. And I feel like after the first inning, they just started to hit. Mookie Betts had 3 hits. Mike Trout, he got a hit after striking out 3 times, I believe, or twice he struck out. Paul Goldschmidt, 2 hits plus a homer. I have it right here. Nolan Arenado, 2 hits. He got hit on the hand, like I said earlier, but he's negative X-ray wise, so he's good to go. Pete Alonso, an RBI single. Tim Anderson only got 1 at bat, and then he got replaced with Jeff McNeil. That's probably to get everyone in. Cedric Mullins, a late game arrival, hit a homer. That was nice. And then, like I said, Trey Turner has been the star of this tournament so far, especially in the last couple of games. If they win it all, there's a good chance he gets the MVP just for these 2 games alone. Adam Wainwright started. He did okay. Miles Mikolas came in, and then Aaron Loop finished it out. This was a big win for the USA just for the fact that they didn't use a ton of pitching. They used Wainwright, they used Mikolas, and then they used Loop. So they saved all their top guns. They're going to have 2 days off, these guys. Devin Williams, Kendall Graveman, David Bednar, Ryan Presley, Adam Ottavino. I'm sorry if I'm forgetting somebody, but they're in a good spot. I mean, Japan and Mexico, depending on who wins that game. I said this also, my bad, I said this podcast was going to be a finals preview. I thought that both games were getting played today. Then they would have a day off Monday, play Tuesday. But instead, we have one more game, Japan versus Mexico. And then we got the final on Tuesday for a really fun tournament so far. USA got a much-needed win from the Cuban side. Like I'm looking here, Santos 1 for 5, Moncada 2 for 4. He got injured, but I believe he's okay. Pitchers did not do well. Elias 4 hits, 3 runs. I'm looking here on my phone. Romero 2 runs in a third of an inning. Like I think every pitcher gave up a run. It was just USA was supposed to win this game. They kind of outclassed them. And when you get a lineup like this to click, and what's good about this lineup is that like they bludgeoned you. Like they had 4 home runs. Like Turner hit 2, Goldschmidt hit 1, Mullins hit 1. But every at bat is a grind. Like there was not one at bat I felt tonight that was like, what, like 1, 2, 3, you're done. Like none of those. Like no like was it good morning, good afternoon, good good night. And it just, when you get that as an inexperienced pitcher in these pressure type situations, you feel like there's nowhere you can go to get an out. You get to a 2-1 count, it's like you're screwed. You get to a 1-2 count, they start fouling off a couple pitches, they lay off a couple tough ones, all of a sudden you're in a 3-2 count, and you walk. Those types of things are killers for a pitcher. They drain you mentally, physically, emotionally, and that's what leads to these outbursts when you have these types of things. Cuba had 12 hits, 2 runs. That's the difference in, like, this, like, USA's lineup is so stacked with all-stars compared to Cuba, who a lot of their best players didn't really play. Like, Robert played, Moncada played, but besides that, Like, they were talking about how Jordan Alvarez wasn't playing and some other guys. Jose Abreu wasn't playing. But even if they have those guys, it's still not 9 All-Stars like this lineup has, especially when Trey Turner's red hot. Mike Trout is the greatest player I've ever seen. Pete Alonso is hit 40 home runs and is struggling to stay in the lineup. Jeff McNeil just got his first at-bat in what feels like a week. He won the batting title last year. United States' lineup is insane. We were worried about their pitching as United States fans. They did a good job tonight. I don't know who gets the ball for the final. I would assume Merrill Kelly, but I think it's going to be an all-hands-on-deck effort. Like, I think you'll see if Kelly does well, 3 or 4 innings with him, then you'll go Graveman, Bednar, Williams, Presley, Ottavino, like all the names I just said. You might see Daniel Bard again. Who knows? Maybe Brady Singer. And it's going to be tough. If they get to the bullpen with a lead, that's the strength of this team pitching-wise. And for Cuba, like, there's a good run, especially starting 0-2. They'll be back next time because they don't have to qualify because they finished above last. And then Japan versus Mexico, just to preview that a little bit, they're throwing a 21-year-old phenom, Japan. I don't quite know what his name is. And then Mexico's throwing Patrick Sandoval of the Angels. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a dogfight. I don't really know who I'm pulling for here. I kind of like both teams. I like the Randy Rosarena story. But like I said last time, I really want to see Mike Trout face Shohei Ohtani. So no matter what, I'm going to be happy with the outcome of that game and really looking forward to that game on Tuesday. Okay, for the last topic today, like I said, a short podcast today. Not much happened between today and yesterday besides the game. We're going through our X Factors of the AL East. We have this today. We have the Central on Thursday, and then we have the West on Monday. And then I'm contemplating doing a podcast on Wednesday. Actually, no, it'll come out Thursday morning. Just for future reference, the predictions will be a separate video, so I'm not going to talk about that on the podcast. I'll preview the games coming up. The prediction will be a separate video. Look for that probably the Tuesday or Wednesday before. But for now, let's get to our AL East X Factors, starting with the Tampa Bay Rays. This is a tough one, but I was thinking about it. I'm like, who's a guy that really needs to step up this year for them to not be a putrid offense again? Because last year, let's be honest, in the playoffs, they went away, and throughout most of the year, they kind of struggled. And that's Brandon Lau. Brandon Lau, he was an MVP candidate a couple years ago. I think it was a shortened season, but regardless, injuries were his problem. And if he can stay healthy, he's got 40 homer power, this guy. And now you have Wander in the mix with him. They kind of mix and match the lineup. Like Isaac Paredes is a pretty good hitter. Harold Ramirez hits the ball very hard. So you got some guys. Randy Rosarena, obviously, Yandy Diaz. We spoke about these guys before in the past. And Brandon Lau, like, you can make an argument he's their best hitter when he's fully healthy. But last year he was like out for like, I felt like forever. Came back, got hurt again, was never really consistently in the lineup. And when you have that, you're never going to catch a rhythm in baseball when that happens. You notice guys that miss a lot of time usually don't play that well because you need like that couple at bats to get back into the swing of things. And then if you're back on the shelf, you're never going to get hot. And it's a shame that Lau got hurt. The Rays found a way like they always do, but it came back to bite them in the playoffs because Lau was not himself. And if he can stay healthy, this team's offensive ceiling raises. I don't know how high this team's offensive ceiling is just because of the nature of what they have. But like him, like Wander, I feel like people need to like not pump the brakes on Wander Franco, but he needs to show more in my opinion. He hasn't shown that superstar level yet, but if he can get there, Brandon Lau can stay healthy, this offense could be potent and good enough to win a playoff series, maybe make a run again like they did in 2020. Next up, we got the Toronto Blue Jays. I looked around the infield. Like, I don't love Kevin Biggio. Whit Merrifield's solid. Like, obviously, Bichette and Guerrero and Springer are not X-Factor type players. Alejandro Kirk's a stud. So I went to the pitching side. Chris Bassett, I was going to use him, but I feel like he's too reliable to use as an X-Factor type guy. Like, you know what you're getting out of him. Alek Manoah was the ace, so I went with the guy who I believe was the worst pitcher in baseball last year, and that's Jose Barrios. Jose Barrios, with the Twins, he was always supposed to be that ace. He never really got to that level, but he's still a more than okay pitcher and it can be a 2 on the Blue Jays, to be honest with this team. Problem with him is that he's coming off a really bad year. He did not pitch well in the World Baseball Classic. And also, the big reason he's the X factor here is that the Blue Jays gave him a massive contract that might come back to bite them in the future. I don't really know. Like, I don't know if I could trust Barrios. It's it's tough because when you have that bad of a season, even if you get better, it still might not be good enough. And the Blue Jays are going to have to make some decisions. And it's weird because they just gave him a 7-year contract 2 years ago or a year and a half ago. Now, is he even good enough to be in the rotation? Like, I don't want to say it's going towards the Patrick Corbin route, but he's a guy that needs to get off to a hot start to start the year. He has to have 2 or 3 really good starts to start the season. He starts, like, unraveling. Who are you going to go with? Like, you have Manoah, you have Bassett. Like, Ryu's injured. They lost Ross Stripling. Kevin Gausman's really good. So they have pitching, but he is the X factor because he can't be awful again. Like, he can't. Or else the Blue Jays will lose a lot of depth at their starters, and that's something that's kind of hampered them in years past. Their lineup's fine. They're still growing up a little bit, it feels like. And like I said, that's why I love the Chris Bassett signing so much, because it takes a little bit off of Berrios, but if he can't get the job done, he can't be in the rotation. Next up is the New York Yankees. New York Yankees, I made a joke. If Aaron Judge didn't hit 62 home runs, there's a chance that the Yankees win 81 games last year, because once the All-Star break hit, Aaron Judge was literally the only source of offense, it felt like. And I feel like a guy that is coming off, he had a solid season, but has to kind of repeat that or be a little bit better, just because you're not going to expect Judge to do it again, and that's Gleyber Torres. Also with Gleyber Torres is the fact that I don't know how much time he has left with the Yankees. I don't know if they want to sign him to an extension, or if they want to trade him, or just let him hit free agency. He's kind of in that weird spot. Like, he's not a superstar getting these 12-year deals, but he does have a track record. He's turned into a really nice player. I've questioned sometimes, his defense leaves a little bit to be desired, but once he moved to second, he got more comfortable. I picked him over, the young guys like Volpe, Peraza, Cabrera, because I'm not going to put too much pressure on those guys in the nature that they have nothing really to base it off of, so how can I call you an X Factor? Even though I think I have had some rookies on here, but Torres, like I said, he has a track record. He's a good player. I don't think he's as good as he was in his rookie season, but I think last year, if you get that again, maybe a little bit more, you're in a good spot. I also believe that if he does that and then you get something out of Volpe, something out of Peraza, something more than what Donaldson and IKF gave offensively last year, they'll be in a good spot. And I think Gleyber, I was going to also do Aaron Hicks, but I don't know where his situation's like. It seems like it's kind of circling the drain with the Yankees, but he's been a professional for a while, so I wouldn't be shocked if he figured it out, but it looks like the pressure's starting to really get to him. But for Gleyber Torres' sake, he bounced back nicely kind of last year compared to the years past. But like I said, it still wasn't that rookie year, and I feel like Yankee fans are looking for that. I don't know if you're getting that out of him. So Gleyber Torres is the X factor for the Yankees, because outside of Judge, Rizzo, and Stanton, they're going to need some offense. Next up is the Baltimore Orioles. I was super boring here because, hear me out when I say this, but my X factor for the Orioles is Adley Rutschman. Adley Rutschman is obviously projected to be the best player on this team. My thing is that the Orioles did not do a lot when it comes to free agent signings or trades last year. They traded for James McCann. He's going to help Rutschman out a lot. Former Met watch. And Cole Irvin, a pitcher. But besides that, they didn't sign an outfielder or go after Correa or do something like that. They're relying on their young guys, meaning Gunnar Henderson and Adley Rutschman. Gunnar Henderson's barely played in the major leagues. Adley Rutschman almost won Rookie of the Year. Rutschman, they're banking on him to take that big step, and he can. I'm not doubting him by putting him here, but I feel like he's the X factor is because if he does, then they signed their star by just keeping him and letting his progress be that star. And I think he does it. I think the Orioles have a real chance to make the playoffs this year. Check out the predictions for that, but I put him as the X factor just because he doesn't. If he doesn't get better, that's where it becomes a little bit of an issue, even though it is only year 2. The Orioles, I don't know if they're better than the 3 teams above them right here. This isn't a standings, by the way. This is just how I laid out the teams. So I think they're better than the Rays, better than the Red Sox, probably. But the Yankees and Blue Jays are probably better than them. Unless Rutschman can be a superstar, then they're on par. their pitching has gotten better. They have good offensive players everywhere. And he leads the way for this team. So I think he's the X factor. I think he can make a massive difference between their wins and losses this year, obviously. Last up, we got the Red Sox. This one was super obvious for me, and I don't know if you're yelling at the screen right now, and if you are, thanks, and if you're wrong, I'm sorry, but my X factor for the Red Sox is Chris Sale. This one it screamed out at me because offensively they do have a decent lineup. I know they lost Bogarts and Stories out for this not almost a season basically, but they have Devers, they have Kike Hernandez. Verdugo's a solid player. We'll see what Tristan Casas gives, and I'm like I said last episode. Masataka Yoshida, I'm falling in love with every day. So they got guys on the offense. They're pitching. They don't have a true ace unless it's Chris Sale. Chris Sale missed a lot of time last year with injury, and then he broke his finger. That was gross. And then, so if he can come back and be an anchor, they have decent pitching outside of him. They have Corey Kluber, Cutter Crawford's solid. Garrett Whitlock is a good piece to have. Tanner Houck's a good piece to have. So they have pitching, but they don't have an ace unless it's Chris Sale. And I don't know how much I trust him to become an ace, but not become one, but get back to where he was with his early time with Boston and with the White Sox. But if he can get anywhere close to that, it helps the Red Sox. This is probably the only division I would say that all 5 teams have a legit shot to make the playoffs. If you go to the NL East, the Marlins and Nationals can't. The Central, Reds, Pirates, probably not. Rockies, no. And then for other divisions A's, no. Royals, probably not. Tigers, no. This is the only division where I can comfortably say that these 5 teams all have a chance. The Red Sox got worse, obviously, but they're still a formidable roster. And Chris Sale can be a big part of them getting to the playoffs if it comes down to that. But we have to see him pitch, we have to see him stay healthy, and we have to see him be efficient and good and be an ace. Because if he's not, you're relying on some young guys to really step up, and I don't really trust Corey Kluber, Tanner Houck, Garrett Whitlock, Cutter Crawford, and those types of arms to raise the ceiling enough to overcome the 4 teams in front of them. So that is the episode. Tell your friends, tell your family. I appreciate you guys listening. I know this was a short one, but I try to keep it at a certain time for you guys, so I'm not wasting your day with 3-hour podcasts. Not that that's a problem, but let's be honest, I ain't a big enough podcast yet to be throwing out 4-hour podcasts. So appreciate you guys listening. Like I said, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. Follow me on all those platforms, as well as subscribe to my YouTube channel at RBI Podcast. Be on the lookout for some quarterback tier videos, for my MLB prediction video, for my next podcast this Thursday coming up. But for now, I hope you guys enjoyed this on your Monday morning, and I will see you guys on Thursday. Peace out.